everyone, it's Vanilla. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're not new, welcome back. I'm gonna be doing something I don't think I've ever done before. I'm gonna be talking about a hack that was released about a week and a half ago. I know. Normally I'm talking about things that came out a million years ago, but this time I'm right on top of things. Maybe this will be the start of something new. So I'm gonna be talking about a ROM hack that was released for Pokemon Yellow called Pokemon Velvet. Pokemon Velvet is a hack created by Peanutella XO using the Pret framework for Pokemon Yellow. This hack adds in quality of life and balance changes, which make for a fresh new take on a very popular classic.
Actually, Vanilla, Pokemon Yellow and Gen 1 in general are peak Pokemon design. True Pokemon fans like myself would understand that after Gen 2, everything started to go downhill. Why even change anything about the original games? They are perfect as they are. The designs for new Pokemon are so unoriginal. I mean, a pile of trash? Really? And don't even get me started on how you don't even need to train anymore to level up your Pokemon. The new games are so easy. This generation is so spoiled by instant gratification.
You're here earlier than usual, Melvin. Thank you so much for that insightful commentary. I totally didn't need those brain cells for anything important. I'm so sorry about that. Just do your best to ignore him, okay? Since I'm not a geriatric, I do have to admit that Gen 1 was a bit before my time. I didn't grow up with red, blue, or yellow. But I do have to say that when I have played Yellow in the past, I enjoyed it. There's something about the earlier generations that are still appealing to this day. Although I'm not entirely sure what that is. For myself, I would have to say that I appreciate the simplicity of Gen 1. It's a pretty linear story. Your goal at the end of the day is to become the Pokemon champion, and you defeat Team Rocket on the side for the C-plot. There's no cataclysmic world-ending story to keep track of, just Team Rocket being evil. And honestly, if you feel the same way, you're probably really going to enjoy Pokemon Velvet. This ROM hack does its best to keep true to the original Yellow, while adding in some quality of life features that make your playthrough a bit more optimized. It doesn't really add in any story elements, and the gameplay loop is pretty much identical to the original. So when you boot up the game, you're going to notice that the yellow mouse is gone. No! Pikachu! What have they done to you? But it's okay, because this is an upgrade. Instead, our partner is little Hatenna. Similar to Pikachu, you are able to interact with Hatenna, and her sprite portrait will change depending on your location or if certain conditions are met. I have to say that the sprite made by Montamer Casey is just the cutest thing. They did such a great job with the design. Hatenna's typing in Velvet differs a bit from the canon series. She's now Dark type in addition to Psychic. So that's our introduction to the first feature added, which are Fairy, Dark, and Steel types. This change brings the game up to speed with modern Pokemon. Thankfully, the bug that was present in original Yellow, where Ghost type was not super effective against Psychic type like it was intended to be, has been patched. This hack also has it so Pokemon have had their typing changed to reflect the typing additions. Although some Pokemon have had their typing altered independent of their normal typing. For example, Fearow is Flying Dark type and Dodrio is Ground and Flying type. Velvet also adds in new regional variants for certain Pokemon. All of the Gen 1 starters and their evolutions have had their sprites and typing altered. Their designs are really unique and the sprites are very well made. Venusaur is Poison Water type, Charizard is Rock Dragon type, and Blastoise is Psychic Flying type. I have to say that Blastoise is my favorite design out of all of them. I love the concept of him flying around on a huge tail that looks like a cloud. All of these new designs genuinely look like they fit right in with the original Gen 1 art style. The creator has also added in a second evolution for Sunkern called Sunamary. This behemoth is a grass flying type, and you can acquire it by using the Ultra Soil that is found in the Safari Zone in Fuchsia City on a Sunflora. I have to say that I'm a bit intimidated by Sunamary. Don't get me wrong, the sprite is very well designed, but something about it was giving me Flowey from Undertale vibes. But since I only had to look at its back sprite, I could just pretend that it didn't look like it would unalive me if it had the opportunity. Maybe it just chose not to because I chose the true pacifist route and it decided to spare me. Interestingly, this hack alters type matchups. Ice is now resistant to water and grass, Poison is super effective against water, Bug resists Fairy, and Steel no longer resists Bug and Grass. I'm not a gigabrain like some folks on the internet, so my analysis might be inaccurate. Feel free to correct me in the comments if I make a mistake. But I assume these changes were made due to the limited Pokemon to choose from. Even though this hack includes new Pokemon that weren't originally in Gen 1, there are a fewer amount of Pokemon to choose from overall compared to more modern games. So I think it makes sense to adjust the typing to be a bit more lenient to make more Pokemon viable to use. Making Ice resistant to water and grass makes Lapras a bit stronger, and would also allow other Ice types like Dugong to perform especially well against Grass types. Also, Bug types like Beedrill and Scyther are now stronger since they resist Fairy types and can do normal damage to Steel types. So in addition to Pokemon typing and efficacy, some moves have had their typing altered from Gen 1. For example, Bite has been changed from normal to Dark type, and Gust has been changed from normal to Flying type. Some new moves have been added as well. For example, X-Scissor has been added and it has a high chance to crit, and Dazzling Gleam has been added along with a 10% chance to confuse the target. Even more balance changes come in the form of trainer teams being swapped. The documentation shows all of the major battles that have been changed and lists the new Pokemon and their movesets. In addition to the gym leaders' teams being changed, some of the gym leaders have been moved around completely. 2 new gym leaders have been added. There's Ariel in Celadon City and Kyo on Cinnabar Island. Additionally, Nadine has replaced her father Koga in the Fuchsia City gym, cause Koga's too cool to be a gym leader anymore. And since Ariel replaced Erica in Celadon, Erica kindly kicked Bruno to the curb and is now an Elite Four member. The cool thing about the new gym leaders is that their gyms are specifically designed for them. It's not like Ariel was just placed into Erica's gym with no changes made. I think between Kyo and Ariel is my favorite addition because she really felt like she fit into the universe. She and Lieutenant Surge served in the army together, which fits in nicely with the vibe of Gen 1. The next thing added was for you completionists out there. You're also able to catch all of the Pokemon and complete the Pokedex. An item called the Link Cable has been added, so you can easily obtain trade-exclusive evolutions without having to go through all the trouble of trading with yourself using an emulator. And trust me, that is absolute agony. You can catch certain Pokemon that you wouldn't have been able to before by encountering them in the wild, like Eevee. So now you can get all of the Eeveelutions for the Pokedex. You're also able to obtain Mew by trading Mewtwo to an NPC on Cinnabar Island. According to the documentation, Mew was going to be added to the Rock Tunnel after getting Strength, but because of some complications, it had to be swapped to an NPC trade instead. So that's the long and short of the quality of life changes, and I have to say that these adjustments really did improve the game feel. But there are some things that I do wish were changed a little bit. These are just my opinions having played through the entire thing. I think it's important to note that the overall goal of this hack was to maintain the original gameplay loop of Yellow, just with a little bit extra. That being said, I personally think a little bit more can be done to further improve the game feel, while still remaining faithful to the original. Again, these are just my thoughts, and I'm not really qualified for this position. These complaints are just beef that I have with Yellow, not with the hack itself necessarily. I think I want to start with my most important point first. I think that Gen 1 is a crucial piece of Pokemon history, and so it needs to be treated as the first go at creating the Pokemon formula we know and love. There are things about Gen 1 that are really endearing to me, like the art style and the character design. There are also a lot of things in Gen 1 that keep me from going back to play again. There is one particular mechanic that is more intrusive than others, and that is the fact that battles take literally forever to complete. Now, if you're Melvin, or have rose-tinted glasses on, we're going to do some quick napkin math together to determine how long it takes to actually complete a battle. I did this quick math using Pokemon on Victory Road that are anywhere between level 36 and level 49. It takes around 21 seconds for a battle if you use a super effective move and it OTKs. OTK is 1 turn kill. 27 seconds if you 2 turn, and it was around 41 seconds for 3 turns. This is with battle animations on. And we're talking short animations. This is very important because a move like Bulldoze takes just under 5 seconds to complete, not including the extra second or 2 for the health bar to go down. If we want to sit in boring land with no animations, it can still take around 41 seconds for a 3-turn battle, but OTKs can be lowered to around 15 seconds per encounter, and 2 turns are around 25 seconds if there aren't any status effects. But I would say a much more typical wild encounter that is 3 turns or more can run over 60 seconds long. And this is a huge issue because we're earning anywhere between 440 and 1200 XP per encounter on Victory Road. And at times, you need 10,000 XP to level up. So if you're earning XP somewhere in the mid-range each encounter, it's going to take 12 encounters to level up once. With animations on, it's going to take you 4 minutes to level up at best, and 8 minutes or more if you're really struggling. Now let's say that your super effective move is Bulldoze, for example. That means we have to add on another 5 seconds for the animation, so that's an extra minute to each of those completion times. If you're earning in the lower range of around 440 XP per encounter, and you have a tough time grinding, it might take you somewhere around 15 minutes to level up once, and there is no XP share in this game. So let's say you have to level up 3 times to be ready for the Elite Four, and your Pokemon all need around 10,000 XP to level up once. It's going to take you 12 minutes if you're playing optimally, but are you ready for this? If you're stuck leveling suboptimally, it may take you anywhere from 36 minutes at a completely optimal pace to more than 2 hours if things aren't going well.
Vanilla, you can't be serious. That's the whole point of playing Pokemon. You're supposed to train your team. What even is Pokemon if you're not raising them yourself? What do you expect, rare candies to just fall from the sky?
Ugh, no, Melvin. I don't expect to have everything done for me, but I think even though it is the original system, that something could be done to make it less time-consuming. And before you open your mouth, it's not just me. I've seen folks discuss that after certain points in the game, They just check out. Some of them said that after Celadon City, the grind was too extreme and completely demotivating, and I can see that. It's almost like you're forced to play with extremely low-level Pokemon unless you want to sit for hours to level up to the important trainer's ace Pokemon. Now sure, you could make an argument to hack in rare candies or something, but that's not really the same thing as balancing out the XP gain, because I think it would be a shame to completely remove the leveling mechanic, so someone's gotta answer the call and do something.
Vanilla?
What is it this time, Melvin? Do you just want to do this video since you have so much to say? Wait, no, don't answer that.
Why don't you just play a different game if you have so many complaints? You might as well just remake the entire game with all the changes you want done. What's the point of playing if you want to get rid of everything that makes Gen 1 unique?
Again, I think that Gen 1 is a really fundamental part of the Pokemon franchise, even though it's nearing 30 years since its release at this point. But if some changes aren't made to make them more playable in a modern setting, new players might be too turned off to even give them a try, and that's a shame. There are some suggestions I have that might be a bit easier to address than a complete overhaul of the battle mechanic. I think that maybe giving the player complete access to HMs without needing to teach them to a Pokemon would better reflect a more modern gameplay feel. And so it might not be a bad idea to remove the need to teach them to your Pokemon. Plus in Yellow, it's a bit cumbersome to use them, since you can't just select the object in the overworld, you have to go into the menu, select the Pokemon, and then use the ability. But those are just my ideas. The creator of the hack has actually stated that she'd like to add in some updates in the future, and I think the concepts that she put forward were really good, and I'd be excited to see how they change the feel of the game. She intends to add running shoes and increase the movement speed you get on your bike and while surfing. I think something as simple as increasing player speed may make the movement feel less glacial, because right now it can feel as though you're not even moving sometimes, especially when you're trying to push a boulder in a cave. Like the boulder puzzle on Victory Road takes forever, and imagine if you're not too familiar with the puzzle and you had to push the rocks multiple times. That's painful. The other feature that the creator talked about adding was a hard mode, and I think this is an excellent idea. There would be a level cap in place to make sure you can't level past the next boss trainer's ace Pokemon. Additionally, you wouldn't be able to use items in battle, and the battle mode would be forced to set, which means you don't have the opportunity to switch Pokemon once you faint an opponent's Pokemon. These are all things I've seen before in hacks with difficulty options, and I'd be excited to try this one. I'd love to see if the forced level cap would change the way I build my teams. It's something that's a bit more complex, but I'd be interested to see if there would be a way to make the AI for the important trainer battles a bit more dynamic. It's been a while since I played Yellow, but this time around I noticed that the important trainers would use battle items more often, and I thought this was interesting. It would be cool to have the trainers be a bit more aggressive and tactical with their strategies, especially alongside a forced level cap. Currently, there exists a version of this game that has PSS, but it wasn't released when I initially started my playthrough. But I bet that it changes the way that the game is played as well, since the physical special split for moves wasn't released until Gen 4, which was many years later. So while I had quite a bit to say about this hack, I don't think there was much of anything that bothered me while I was playing. I think one of the only true complaints I have is with the documentation. As at the time I'm writing this script, there's nowhere for me to see what level Pokemon learn their moves. The movesets are altered from Gen 1, and it was a bit disappointing to have to choose to evolve my Pokemon blindly without knowing if they've learned all the moves I'd like them to. If the majority of Pokemon are using movesets from a particular generation, it would be enough for me just to know that information. I tried to figure out if it was just one generation in particular. The documentation states that stat changes have been brought over from Gen 7, but the movesets don't match up for a Pokemon like Nidoqueen, so I was stumped. But other than that, I think that this is an excellent hack, and it brings a lot of good things to Pokemon Yellow. The creator states that her goal for this hack was for the mixed up roster of Pokemon, balance changes, and revamp battles to make the experience unique. And I have to say that I definitely think it did that. Between the addition of new Pokemon, sprites, important trainers, and various quality of life adjustments, that the game definitely feels fresh. This would be my preferred version of Yellow, and I would suggest it to you if you're looking to give Yellow a try for the first time, or if it's been a while since you've played. So that's the end of my yap session. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Please make sure to fill out the exit survey before you leave. I'm just kidding, I don't have the budget for an exit survey. But if you enjoyed the video, and me, please consider giving me a like and subscribing to my channel. I make Pokemon content all the time, and I've made a few videos about ROM hacks before, so feel free to check those out if you'd like something new to watch. I hope you have an amazing day, and I can't wait to see you again next time. Okay, bye!